Good morning, everyone. It's been a while since we've done the Economic Alliance breakfasts. We were trying to do one back in February of 2020, and as we know, that abruptly got canceled for a couple months, and that turned into a couple of years, unfortunately. So this is over 2 years in the making, but we appreciate everybody coming out today. Before we get started, we have several elected officials in the audience today. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge them. Firstly, two of our representatives down in Springfield took time out of their busy schedules today to come and support this program. So I want to welcome and thank State Senator Ann Gillespie and State Representative Mark Walker. If maybe like to raise a hand. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. We also have several members of our village board in attendance today. If they don't mind raising their hands, we have Trustee Robin Lebetz, Trustee John Scaletta, Trustee Jim Bertucci, Trustee Tom Schwingbeck, Trustee Jim Tenalia. We also have former Trustee Bert Rosenberg with us today. Thank you for coming, Bert. And also, our village manager, Randy Recklaus, is here as well. Thank you. Besides one obvious person, did I miss anybody? Okay, well, that's funny because this person needs no introduction, primarily because his name and picture are on the postcard, which is why you're here today. I'd like to introduce our village president for the past 9 years, Mayor Tom Hayes. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Anytime you can get Bert Rosenberg out in bed in the morning, it must be a special event. And so we really appreciate the opportunity to meet back again in person. As we continue to pray for peace in Eastern Europe and as we mourn the loss of so many innocent children and two teachers down in Uvalde, Texas. It's really but by the grace of God we continue to go in comparative calm here in the village of Arlington Heights. And so we thank all those who have contributed in so many ways to help us weather the storm through the past couple of years in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, including all of our community partners, many of which are here with us today. I said last week at my State of the Village address that the state of the village of Arlington Heights is very stable and financially very strong. And that continues to be the case throughout my time on the village board. And again, I can't thank all of our community partners enough for their efforts, including our village staff, our village board, our Economic Alliance. That is such a big part of our village and all we do. We want to get them even more involved in the days and months and years ahead to make sure that they are a really great resource for us in the village. We thank the Chamber of Commerce. We thank our other community partners who are here today as well, including Meet Chicago Northwest, Harper College, all of our partners that really contribute to the vibrancy of our business climate. We're very fortunate. I hope you know that Arlington Heights has once again been named the best place to live in the Daily Herald readership area, and our downtown has been voted the best downtown in the Daily Herald readership area as well for 2021. And so the village board meets on every 2-year basis after municipal elections to reset our strategic priorities. And the last time we met, we set as our #1 strategic priority the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, and that includes every part of that, including our homeowners, our residents, our citizens, and especially our businesses. And we appreciate all that our businesses have done to help themselves, but now we're here to make sure that we help them in whatever way we can. And that's what we're hoping to do today with our distinguished panel, is to learn how we can help our businesses continue to weather the storm and move to a new normal in a post-pandemic environment. So thank you all for joining us today. Enjoy your breakfast, and most importantly, enjoy what our panelists have to say here today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Mayor Hayes. I've actually just one more round of introductions. The Arlington Economic Alliance is the Village Board appointed commission to advise the board on business and economic development related matters. It's a 13-seat commission made of volunteers from throughout the business community to represent you. And we have someone who'd like to say a few words. I'd like to introduce the chairperson of the Arlington Economic Alliance, Andrew Stengrin.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Mayor Hayes, elected officials, panel members, and all of you for joining us for this great event today. As Michael said, my name is Andrew Stengrin. I represent Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Stark Real Estate here in Arlington Heights. And I also, as Michael said, I chair the Arlington Heights Economic Alliance. I simply wanted to take 30 seconds to mention some people that we can be grateful for. The Alliance is an advisory committee to the Village Board of Trustees. The Commission's efforts aren't always visible to the business community. We sort of fly under the radar. We don't work in the public eye. But the people on the Alliance, the members of the Alliance, take time out of their day every month to further the business community, to make sure that Arlington Heights is a better place to live and work in and do business in. So because of the nature that we could sort of fly under the radar, I just wanted to take publicly an opportunity to thank the members of the Alliance, and so I'll just do that right now. First off, Joyce Barbaricho, Holiday Inn Express, Rich Casey from Northwest Community Healthcare, Tanya Ito from International Services, Inc., Tony Guido, Arlington Heights Ford, Heather Larson, Meet Chicago Northwest, Michelle Petrie from Village Bank and Trust, John Riddler from the Arlington Heights Chamber of Commerce, Brian Rodzinski from Cortland's Garage in Arlington Heights, and Andy Rule, Throne Elements Pottery. And then again, just want to, a big thank you to Michael Mertes, who's a great representative of the Village of Arlington Heights. He works very hard, very knowledgeable, and a great liaison between our committee and the village. So with that, I thank you for joining us. I'll kick it back to Michael and enjoy the event.
All right, so let's get to the program here and just kind of a quick introduction to kind of provide some context for what we're discussing. Obviously, it's a tremendous understatement to say that it's been a struggle for businesses, but especially small businesses, due to the impacts of COVID-19. Those that have survived and even thrived, though, have had to pivot, adjust, and change the way they've done business the past 2 years. Restaurants before that only offered sit-down service suddenly found themselves offering takeout, curbside service, delivery service. Professional offices that were used to having 9 to 5 Monday through Friday hours suddenly found themselves having meetings on Zoom. They found themselves offering work from home options, never having done that before. And of course, in our medical profession, investment in PPE equipment to help keep both their patients and their employees safe and healthy, and even utilizing telehealth options where possible. The title of today's program is Roll Up Your Sleeves, and it's an idiom that expresses the need to get back to business, to do the hard work that entails owning and operating a business despite all obstacles presented. But it also paints an image of preparing for some sort of struggle, and a struggle that some of our business owners now face, less so the restrictions that were imparted back 2 years ago upon businesses, but more so trying to persevere through these post-pandemic challenges they're facing. And one of those biggest challenges is the focus of today's program, and that's hiring and retaining a dependable workforce. Just 3 weeks ago, the Federal Reserve released their 2022 Small Business Credit Survey, and I quote from that report: "Hiring or retaining qualified staff, along with navigating supply chain issues, are the top operational challenges that firms faced in the prior 12 months, with 60% of respondents reporting each." So 3 in every 5 respondents said hiring and retaining a dependable workforce was of critical importance to them right now. So in recognition of this, and as part of their 2022 work plan, the Arlington Economic Alliance sought to produce a program the first half of this year. aimed at small businesses, offering advice and suggestions for how to deal with this problem. So this morning we offer a panel of 3 professionals who work for or with businesses confronting this matter. And while the dilemma of finding and keeping quality workers is a complex and multifaceted issue that could accommodate as many as 50 people on this panel, the experience of these 3 people in legal assistance, business mentoring, and human resources will hopefully give you valuable concepts and ideas, if not outright solutions, for how to deal with this problem. So I would like to quickly introduce, starting to my right, he is the director of the Small Business Development Center at Harper College, which, even though based at Harper College, represents the Arlington Heights business community as well. We have joining us Tom Cassell. Also joining us, the manager of talent acquisition for the largest private sector employee we have here in Arlington Heights, and that's Northwest Community Healthcare. I'd like to introduce Cathy Hennings. And additionally, we have a corporate transaction attorney from Drost, Kivlahan, McMahon, and O'Connor Law in downtown Arlington Heights. I'd like to welcome Ryan Evans. Great. Thank you again all for coming and participating. Before I get into some questions, I'd like to give each of you maybe a minute or two to introduce yourselves, what you do, and how your organization or business represents the small businesses in Arlington Heights. So Tom, if I can, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, sure. Again, my name is Tom Cassell. I am the director of the Small Business Development Center at Harper College. So for those of you that don't know, a Small Business Development Center is a small business administration project. There are 900 of these centers across the country. We're all set up to do the same thing. So think of us as a team of consultants. We have 5 consultants that work with Main Street businesses, and that's pretty much our bread and butter. That's what we do. We also provide some training, webinars, and such. And everything that we do is no cost.
Over to you, Cathy.
Hi, I'm Cathy Hennings. So I lead the recruitment team at Northwest Community Hospital. I've been there 6.5 years. My whole career has been in human resources and healthcare. This is probably my last place to be actually employed, and I love every minute of it. Northwest Community Hospital, as I'm sure you know, we are community-based, and we have a lot of clinics that help support everything in the community. We try to be really involved, and I'm glad I'm here to talk to you today. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Evans. As Michael said, I'm a corporate transactional attorney at Drost, Kivlahan, McMahon, and O'Connor. If you don't know where that is, it's right down on Dunn, right across from Cocoa and Blue. At DKMO, we have a residential real estate department, a corporate department, and then also a estate planning department. But in the corporate department, we represent medium, small-sized businesses and anything they need, from being their registered agent to lease review, any kind of contract review. If you want to sell or purchase a business, commercial real estate, pretty much we act as counsel to those businesses that can't afford their own in-house counsel. So with that said, I think that it'll be beneficial for me to be here. So because we kind of help businesses that I think are in the same situation as you guys. So.
Great. Thanks so much, everybody. All right, I'm going to start back with you, Tom. I mean, you deal with a lot of businesses one-on-one and have for several years. I'm curious now, what are the most common issues or reasons you're hearing from small businesses as to why they're having so much difficulty in attracting and retaining employees?
Yeah, so there's obviously anybody with a small business, especially Main Street business, you have a help wanted sign in your window, right? If you're in retail, you have a restaurant, you're struggling. And most small businesses are having these problems. So, there's a lot of reasons. I was talking to a client last week, we had lunch, and he owns a small CPA practice in Barrington. And he had a need for 2 accountants for tax season. And he had a really difficult time trying to find the 2 right people, or just trying to find 2 people at all, actually, just two bodies to get in there and do the work. So I asked him that exact same question, and for him, and it's going to be different for every industry, but for his industry, there is a labor shortage. We all know that there's a shortage, and in labor, you are going to have to pay more for less. probably. But he was saying something interesting. So for him, the top accounting firms were sucking up the best talent, right? Then the mid-tier firms would take the talent from the smaller firms, right? So it's just this whole hierarchy thing. And then by the time it gets down to the small, Main Street firms, there's really slim pickings. So he hired somebody. He found somebody. Only one person out of the two. He liked this person. They came in. They started work, and it was actually the day we had lunch. And he was excited. He left. He trained the person in the morning. Left to go to lunch with me. Went back to the office, and that person had left and never returned. No reason. No phone call. No nothing. So. And that's just one small example, but I know if you're owning, we're hearing a lot of that. So we work with about 350 businesses every year, and that's pretty much the first issue is attracting and retaining talent. So.
Great, thank you. So I want to add to that because that's a great anecdote. How about any beneficial practices that small businesses are utilizing in terms of better hiring and retention, or maybe any success stories that you can offer?
I think the successful clients that are finding people have to be flexible in what they're asking, right? That you can't just the old model of employment was, oh, you're lucky to be here, you're lucky to have a job, and now that has switched. So you have to be more flexible. You have to find out what these folks want. Do they want better pay? Do they want a more flexible schedule? Do they want remote work? And if you can accommodate any of those, you'll have a better chance at hiring somebody.
Right. All right. Thanks, Tom. I'm going to switch over to HR, and that kind of leads into a question for Cathy here. As you know, working at a major company like Northwest Community Healthcare, it's an extremely competitive environment for attracting new workers. So what can small businesses do or offer, in your opinion, to kind of help differentiate them from their competition, like, for example, flexible work hours?
Yeah. So you actually brought up a few good things. We're really no different. People applying at the hospital are looking also for something different. The last 2 years has changed things tremendously. Never experienced it in all of my years in healthcare human resources. So healthcare is a little different because we don't have the flexibility. So flexibility really is number one. The old coming into work at 8, leaving at 5 really is not something that someone wants now. We offer 12-hour shifts for a lot of our staff. That's appealing because then they can work 2 days one week, 3 days the next, get full-time benefits. So anything you can do with flexibility. Remote work is not a really good option for us, but a lot of our candidates, first thing they ask is, how much can I work remote? Well, obviously, bedside nursing you can't, but accounting, IT, other areas you can. So if you have any flexibility to allow remote work, that's great. The environment that they're working in, anything that you can do, we've put a lot of effort on your well-being, making sure you are taken care of. After these last 2 years, what parents have been through with children on Zoom, and just making sure that we take care of our staff. We created, every department has what we call a lavender room that they can go to just to decompress, relax, nice music, books, meditations. So things that you can do that are really thinking out of the box, because it's not going to be putting an ad out there. Social media, it's where you're getting candidates. That's where they're looking. Job fairs, we've held one last week. We're holding another one, but we're looking at a different approach moving forward, just because people don't even want to go to explore. They want to look on their phones and see what's available out there, and they're looking for flexibility.
Right, and that's a great example of what you need to do to try and help attract workers. And I think probably a lot of what you said may tie into this next question, but now looking at retention, a lot of businesses have lost employees over the past 2 years for childcare needs, competitive wages, or even just general COVID concerns, right? So are there anything else that you think maybe smaller businesses can offer their employees to kind of try to help keep them in the long term besides what you mentioned?
So I know there's a lot of daycare facilities in the area. If you can partner with them, so when you have a new hire that may have childcare needs, that you can offer some options for childcare for them. That's really great. Actually talking to them up front to find out what is their main need. And for retention purposes, opportunity. Is there any opportunity for them to grow in your business? And if they start as a receptionist, is there an opportunity for them to grow? And can you help them with any education to get them to that next level? That's really important if they want to. So asking them what they really want to do is really important. And that could change. So you ask it early on, you ask it often. Because sometimes they will leave for a better opportunity, a growth opportunity. So if you can offer that, that would be something really to consider.
Yeah, and that's a great example. I kind of want to just put Heather and Joyce on the spot, just because they brought up a couple months ago in an Alliance meeting how hotel and hospitality industry is a great opportunity to start at a kind of an entry level and quickly work your way up the ladder, and an opportunity that a lot of people don't realize you can do that, and they're kind of trying to emphasize as part of their industry. So great examples. Thank you, Cathy. All right, I want to turn over to some kind of legal aspects as to what's going on here, and I kind of want to see if we can get an answer not just from an attraction or retention standpoint, but also just in a general sense. And the question I'm going to ask is, what laws and regulations that have been enacted since the beginning of the pandemic should small businesses be aware of that maybe they otherwise aren't at this point?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's been a couple changes in the last couple of years that every business is kind of affected by. The first is a codified restrictive covenants, meaning non-competes and non-solicitations. So non-compete being that once you leave your employer or you're fired or whatever reason, you can't compete directly with that employer. Non-solicit being you can't go out after you're terminated to go get their vendors, their suppliers, their customers, any of their current workers. So there used to be no cap on an annual salary or anything. So now they've added a salary requirement in order to enforce a non-compete, and that salary requirement is at $75,000. So if your employee is making less than that, that non-compete is not going to be enforceable. It's not retroactive, so it's only for new employment contracts that it was effective 2022, so for this year. On the same note, for non-solicitations, that threshold in order to enforce those is at $45,000. So we need to hit those thresholds in order to be able to enforce those. They also codified with new legislation different requirements, and a couple of the requirements that they added a additional compensation requirement to enforce these. Now they've said that 2 years of employment will meet that additional consideration. But they've also said that, you can give them an extra bonus, a signing bonus, some extra paid vacation days, anything like that that's additional consideration in order to show that they entered into that agreement with you and that non-compete or that non-solicitation, and they had a little bit extra than just their employment. You also need to keep in mind that these restrictions can't put an undue hardship on your employees. So what you need to ask yourself is, well, if they're terminated, are they going to be able to find employment? If you're only located in the suburbs around here and your restrictive covenant covers, the whole United States, how is that employee going to be able to get a job somewhere else? Now, the courts have said that they can go in and amend those covenants to make them more reasonable, but it would be better off just to have a good enforceable covenant to begin with. So that's the first major change, is on restrictive covenants that was effective this year. Another change was to the Illinois Human Rights Act, and what that does, it made it applicable to any business with at least one employee. Prior to this, it was only applicable to businesses with 15 or more employees. Now what this does is it puts an annual requirement on some sexual harassment training. And you have to do it annually. Now, the Illinois Department of Human Rights, they on their website provide the training, they provide an outline, but as a business, you can go ahead and create your own. I recommend just sticking to what they provide. They provide a pretty good template with videos, a certificate that the employee will sign, stuff like that. So that's an annual requirement that you're going to have to fulfill in order to meet that.
Thank you, Ryan. Follow-up question to that, too. Probably a lot of people in the room didn't know that. So a lot of businesses, especially small businesses, don't have immediate access to an attorney. Any suggestions as where or how small businesses can either better educate themselves or just keep up to date on laws and regulations that impact their industry at various levels of government?
Yeah, definitely. So Like my colleague here, the small business centers across, there's one at Harper, there's one in Southern Illinois. They provide good access to different brochures, publications, any kind of frequently asked questions that you can look at to get a better understanding, at least start to learn what you need to do. There's also, if your profession's regulated by the Illinois Department of Professional Regulation, their website is a great resource. They have, if you click on it, they have all of the laws that are applicable to your professional, whatever you're in, whether it's a chiropractor, hairstylist. They have all kinds of regulations on those and licenses, but they also have good publications for that to learn more about what laws you need to comply with in order to, not be in violation of anything. The Illinois Department of Professional Regulation. Yep, it's idpfr.com. Some other ones that are pretty good, if you're looking for employment resources, the Illinois Department of Employment Security, they have good stuff for that, along with the Illinois Department of Labor. Those are the main resources, but if you're looking just in general, you can look in the newspaper or online, podcasts, you can even Google stuff, but just be sensitive to what you're looking at, confirm and verify. Don't just trust the first source you find, but that's always a good start too, just to get a general broad idea of what you're looking for. From there, you narrow it down to something that's more specific to your question or what you're looking at.
Great. Thanks so much, Ryan. I want to jump back to Cathy in some HR perspective here. One of the things that's been talked about a lot of businesses want to really try and diversify their workforce. And they're trying to do it proactively and trying to enlarge their candidate pool in this regard. Do you have any thoughts on best practices, resources, opportunities that can help these small businesses proactively find diverse and qualified candidates?
Yeah, well, 2 years ago, I would have said best practice was, putting something on Indeed, but everything has, obviously changed. So we do use Indeed, and I would encourage you, if you don't, even as a small business. My daughter-in-law, she owns a pediatric therapy business and has found it really helpful for her to find staff. Indeed, LinkedIn, if you have a LinkedIn profile, get on there and you can actually advertise on LinkedIn. From a diversity standpoint, Indeed is hooked up to all kinds of diversity sites, so when you post a job, it goes out to diverse sites. We have implemented a house-wide employee referral program for our employees to refer staff to us. It's been very effective. And we feel that at NCH, our employee base reflects the community. So we do have a lot of diverse employees that work for us. But it's always, usually in management and upper leadership where our numbers probably aren't as good. So again, trying various tactics, referral program, Indeed, and just networking.
Yeah, so the options are definitely out there. Just have to look for them. Great. All right, Tom, I'm going to jump back to you. Again, in a general sense, besides hiring and retention issues, what other issues are you hearing from small businesses since the onset of the pandemic? And does the Sbdc offer any services that can help in regards to any of these?
Some of the main ones, they're no secret, right? So supply chain issues for folks, having to source products overseas, that's a big issue. And then, we've been really busy for the last 2 years helping folks with the EIDL loans and the PPP and the emergency funding. And now that has all dried up. Folks are calling for financing. And there's not a lot of movement in that area either. So it's tricky right now.
Yeah, playing off of that though, the Sbdc also does offer a lot of free or low-cost seminars, webinars, that sort of thing, right?
So here's how we work. So if you just go to harpercollege.biz, you can find us. You can find out all about our advisors, what their background is. All of everybody that works with me owns their own business or has owned their own business, including myself. So we help with all different kinds of issues, right? The only things we can't advise on is legal and tax accounting, but everything else we can advise on. And think of us as just, we may not have all the answers, right? I mean, you know more about your business than we do. But in my opinion anyway, our best asset is just being there, acting as a sounding board and talking through some of these things. And when you own a small business, you are in a silo. You're doing everything yourself, you're doing everything alone. So this just, we provide, not only do we provide, technical expertise, but also that coaching element and that people really find valuable.
So a lot of mentorship with experience. One other thing I wanted to add too, kind of playing off the diversity question that I asked Cathy earlier for you, Tom, is I believe Harper also has a web page or website for like former Harper alums or something like that, where you can do like a job search for that.
So it's called HireHawk.
Yeah.
It's a job posting board at Harper. So anybody can go on there and post a job for the students in the community. It's called HireHawk.
So any small business here who's looking for an employee can go on the website, post on there, no cost, and it's just another channel that they can kind of reach out to, correct?
Yes.
Great, HireHawk. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Ryan. I wanted to ask what resources are available for small businesses in need of legal assistance, but maybe they have challenges in being able to afford such services.
Yeah, I mean, as everyone knows, attorneys are expensive and we want to keep those costs down. The Illinois Attorney General's website, they have a section there for pro bono services. They have ones for Chicago area, they have Rockford and downstate, university provided legal sources. So there's a list of each of those of like 15 on each, so over 60 providers that give pro bono services. Now you'll have to call them to figure out what their criteria is for taking any pro bono services on. Some of them have different income requirements, stuff like that. So calling that's a good idea just to get started. You can also go to the Illinois State Bar Association's website. They provide an option to have an initial consultation with an attorney in the area that you're looking for $25. So you'll call them, you'll give your name, a brief description of what service you're looking for, what your issue is, and they will set you up with an attorney for an initial consultation for $25 flat fee. After that, it's kind of based on whatever their hourly rate is or whatever kind of fee structure they do, but you don't have to retain them. And a lot of times I find that some of these questions that we're getting, they're one-off kind of questions. So in that 30-minute call, you might be able to get your question answered. So that's a good resource too. You can also call around for attorneys. I know, at DKMO, we don't usually give free services, but if someone calls with a one-off question, we have no problem answering it if it's something simple and something that's on the top of our head that we don't have to do any research on. So give us a call. If it's something that's simple, we'll definitely answer it for you. A number of law schools, nonprofit organizations, those kind of companies, they also give legal services. They may not, represent that you can base your, whatever you're doing off of it, but they'll at least give you a good direction to start off of. So calling any nonprofits, colleges, I know there's a lot of law schools with legal clinics, especially there's like housing ones and stuff, and those are ran by the students, but with oversight from a professor, and those are usually free too. So checking into the local law schools to see what they provide is a good option as well.
Terrific, thanks so much. Any other thoughts on any of those questions, or else I can kind of start a Q&A round here since we have a lot of people here today. All right, if not, Ryan, I think there are those microphones over there by you. I'm going to steal those from you if I can. Thanks. Thanks. Yep. All right, does anybody have any questions? I can pass a microphone over to you. All right, in the back, a couple in the back.
Question first.
Wow, that's really loud. Just real quick on the non-solicit with the minimum of how much they make. We're part of a park district, so how would that work when it comes to our biggest concern is coaches and then people that we hire specifically for their skills. So say a yoga instructor or something of that nature. They're never going to make that minimum because we're just one of the clients that they work with, but we want to protect the fact that when our softball coach leaves, they don't take all of our athletes with them and start another league.
Right.
So we have them sign something saying that whoever they meet within our programs, they can't solicit to go elsewhere.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. These sound like 1099 employees. So it's a little different for those employees. These are for W-2 employees, full-time employees. So for part-time, it's not that. It's a little bit different. So it's, as long as there's some requirements you still need to meet, like they still need to be able to find another job somewhere else. But as long as that's possible, as long as you're not saying you can't find employment anywhere within Illinois, you should be fine. But it's kind of a fact-specific kind of scenario. It varies from industry to industry, but it's not the same kind of criteria for an independent contractor, which it sounds like that's what they are. Okay. Yep.
Dr. Olatunji Chiropractic. I own a chiropractic clinic in north part of Arlington Heights. And my question's almost like a two-part question. The first part is, how important is it for the business to have a clear mission to attract potential employees? And then the second part of that is, what's more important, filling the empty seat or filling the empty seat with the right person for the mission?
I was reading, so this is interesting, and it's a free report. Remember Monster.com, right? Indeed has taken over. So they just did a yearly report, their 2022, the Future of Work report, and it lists out, what candidates are looking for. So as far as mission statement and your business, the top thing candidates are looking for is meaningful work. Right? How the heck you're going to do, provide that for every employee, right? But I think it is important that employees know where you stand in the community, and that you do have a mission higher than the job, right? Or than your business. Maybe you volunteer, maybe you're part of a nonprofit, but I think that is important, especially these days. The second part of the question was the seat or the, every business is going to have to decide that for themselves. Some businesses need really technically trained employees, and they're going to, it's going to be a bit, it's going to take a while. Though that last example, I think it took my client 4 months to find one person. So it all depends on the business and what you're willing to accept. So I don't think there's any right answer there. And there's nothing saying you can't hire somebody, and if they don't work out, I know you need the body in the seat, but I would keep trying until you found at least somebody who's right for the position and believes in what you're doing.
Yeah, I can add to that too. Mission, vision, and values, they kind of go hand in hand. So, for a company, a business to have a mission statement, a vision statement, and values, it's something that you can use in your recruitment, whether it's just, an ad or in your window or something like that. I think some employees really do look for that. And as far as just taking the warm body, we still want to make sure we have a good fit. And you're right, sometimes it's not a good fit in their situation. They have a time to evaluate us, we have a time to evaluate them. But we do try to find, that customer service attitude. I always have a strong belief that, you can train someone, but it's hard to train what's in there, so.
Just want to jump in with that too, Tom. So I assume part of a good business plan is to know who your employees are, what you're looking for them. Is that something that the Sbdc can help with as well, like helping formulate a business plan?
Oh yeah, so yeah, we definitely help with that. We don't write them obviously for the client, but we do review them and provide critiques.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, I think we're good. Yeah.
Hi, Rob Rosenberg with Springboard Brand and Creative. We hire a lot of younger professionals, and it seems as though the whole past couple of years with COVID has changed the landscape in terms of their expectations. I was recently at a conference where it was brought up the 4-day work week. So you have a lot of these younger professionals who are just not buying into 9 to 5, 5 days a week. And they're really, hybrid models, working from home is almost an expectation. And I'm wondering if you're hearing that, if you are obliging that, if you are countering that, or if you feel we're going to go back to a little bit more traditional structure, because that is an expectation among 25 to 34-year-olds. And I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
I can start. I don't know if it's going to go back. It really has changed. A nurse is one thing, but in all the other areas that we employ, we are finding that you really need to look at flexibility and how the work can get done and how it can get done maybe differently than we've done in the past. We have to be really careful of our job descriptions, because if we post a job and it might say there's a remote chance that you might have to do this, that word remote is picked up when we post and they think it's a remote job. And they're all applying to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we had so many people apply. But when you start contacting them, they think it's a remote job. So I don't really know if it's going to go back to the way we used to be. We need to figure out how we can adapt to what's now the new normal.
And I would just add to that too, it sounds like you're in a creative type business, right? So you have the flexibility, whereas other small businesses do not. I'm a creative type, and I do my best work outside of work, So maybe that's something that you could do too, is just offer a more flexible schedule and, at night or during the weekends or whatever that is to get the work done.
Hi there, Kate, and first of all, just thank you all for this wonderful group. It's great to be out. I wanted to ask Tom if I could email you for a copy of that 2022 Future of Work study. And then I wanted to ask all of you, is there any particularly effective list of interview questions that you have used? And I know that's going to be specific to the industry that you're looking for people for, but I'm looking for maybe any questions that you've heard about or thought of that can help discern character, ethics, philanthropic heart, kindness, that kind of thing. You can kind of tell, but I would love to hear if anybody's heard of a good question that helps us weed that out of our employee possibilities.
I can start behavior-based questions. And you can actually go on sites and get some good examples of them. One that we find very effective is tell me about a time that you didn't get along with your supervisor, and what did you do? Or you didn't get along with a coworker. What did you do? How'd you handle that? It's a really good, effective one. But there's a lot of them out there. You don't want to ask yes or no questions. You want to get them to talk, to tell about an experience. How did you handle yourself when you came into work and you were the only one there that day? Your 5 coworkers had called off. How did you handle? How did you prioritize? So behavior-based questions. There's a lot of information out there about that. And I can give you my card. I've got hundreds of pages of them if you want. So
I might be able to answer that as well in terms of a question to ask. One of them that I like to ask in that realm is I share what our core values as a company are. And then I ask, have you had an opportunity, have you taken the time for introspection as to what maybe your core values are? Can you explain those to me? And I often get good answers.
Did anyone else have any questions? Oh, a couple up front here.
Thank you. Representative Walker and I have been working on various legislations to try to grow talent and to help with career paths. So we've passed career path legislation, expanded tax credits for apprenticeship programs, a CNA intern program, loan repayment assistance for social workers and other high demand professions. And I would just like to get feedback from the panel or anybody in the audience on what are some other things we can do to help from the state level in this regard.
From a state level, anything to help small businesses stay in business these days, that's going to be quite helpful. As far as, workforce related, Harper College has an apprenticeship program that does well, but it's not for everybody. It's not for, it's for companies that have several employees and they have the money to put one of their employees through the program. But I think, training is important. The ETIP program, where the state matches the funds that companies use to train their employees, the level of funding, if there was always a consistent level of funding and that program was always funded, that would be a super big help.
Thank you. I have another question up front.
Thank you. I was just wondering if one of you can take us up in the helicopter, so to speak, and kind of give us a landscape of unemployment. I think right now it's 3.6. It was as high as 25% during the Depression. And I know that put your hand in front of your face, and that's what is going on right now, and it's very hard on businesses. But for lack of a better word, somebody who's been in business for 35 years, this too shall pass, right? And for, Tom and Cathy, maybe you can talk about the ebbs and flows of unemployment. And my other question is this truly a new economy? Is this going to change for those who are expecting to work remotely, that type of thing, when unemployment goes up to 10%, say? So if you can kind of give us more of a history and a helicopter view of what your expectations are going forward, especially for some of the younger people in the audience.
So expectations, and if I wish we all had a crystal ball, right? So we could determine what it's going to look like in the future. We have 384 openings right now. So, yes, we're a larger employer, and that seems like unbelievable, but we have a lot of good strategies in place, but we're always looking at different ways to do things. So, when COVID first hit, we changed everything. We weren't hiring for the normal staff. We were actually getting great food service and environmental service employees because their businesses closed. They didn't have jobs because of everything shutting down. But then we had to work on keeping them after things started opening back up. I don't know if I can even tell you what it's going to look like in the future, but I can tell you that it's just thinking out of the box, trying different strategies, and not one way works anymore.
Yeah, I could just piggyback on that. So usually Harper has about 5 positions opened throughout the year, and they have over 100 right now. So everybody is struggling. As Cathy said, nobody has a crystal ball. If the economy sinks, people will be laid off and they'll be looking for work. So that's a possibility. If not, I don't know. I don't know if Cathy sees it, but I don't see, from the small businesses that I speak with who are always looking for folks, what they're telling me is they don't think that this is going to go back the genie's not going to go back in the bottle, right? So we will have to get more creative in how we advertise the jobs, and maybe even the job description itself, just be more flexible.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Is this working? So I was wondering, is there any benefit for any of you three to think about part-time employees versus full-time employees to make that job more interesting or more available to an employee that may not want to work at that full 40 hours a week anymore? Is that a trend that we need to think about?
Yes, both. We sometimes will post a full-time and a part-time position. We know we're only going to fill one, but being creative, and once we do find that right person, then we close both positions out. So I was talking to one of our leaders yesterday, and she's just struggling, and she took a job description and divided it up, made it into 3 different positions, and she knows she's only going to fill one, but we're posting it differently than we used to. So it's, it's just I think creative is the key word.
Yeah, so I was working with a client, this was last year, and she had a need, she was desperate for a delivery driver. Her full-time driver left, and she was stuck, right? Without the goods going to folks, she couldn't bill. So she was having a hard time finding a full-time person to do that. So we talked and like, hey, how about, what about 3 shifts? Do 3 part-time positions instead of 1 full-time. And she was able to find 3 people who wanted to work part-time. So to answer your question, yeah, I think you do need to think about being more creative and flexible in that way.
I will just piggyback on that. I'm a banker in town, and I bank in a search company who's trying to fill jobs for Amazon. And the requirement was you have to be able to lift 100 pounds. They looked at everything that they were shipping and decided that 60% could only need to lift 20 pounds. So they segregated the job, and they filled 50 jobs in a month. So that idea of breaking it down, I think, is absolutely relevant.
Mine is more of a legal question, so probably for Ryan. What impact, if any, does the Fair Labor Standards Act have on the ability of small businesses to offer flexibility in terms of the hours somebody works, weekends, evenings, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so there was actually some changes, I believe, in 2019 to the Fair Labor Standards Act, which changed, you have certain requirements for overtime pay. Now, they raised that threshold, I think that it was like $450 a week, which was equivalent to like a $30,000 salary, raised that to $35,000 salary. So if you have a salaried employee who meets certain criteria for an exempted employee, you don't have to pay them their hourly wage. Now, that's only for salaried employees, not for hourly employees. For other aspects, I'm not too familiar with the rest of the Fair Labor Standards Act. I know that recent change, but if there's more specific question, I'll definitely look into it, and then maybe I can send out an email at the end of this or sometime this week to get a better answer for you on that.
So real quick, with working at Harper and dealing with clients that need people, one of the biggest things that we have with hiring part-time employees, because that's the bulk, and we're short probably about 250 at this point to get our camps running, is they'd like those, what they call now gig jobs, which is DoorDash and Uber Eats and Uber, because there is no set time for them where they have to be to work. They can wake up whenever they want, they can do whatever they want, they can have their whoever hang out in the car with them all day and they can chill, whatever. That is one of the things that we've heard is causing this issue, but I was wondering if you've seen that as far as like the college age students who don't want to have that straight commitment of you must be at work at 2 o'clock every day.
Yeah, so I think the breakdown at Harper is over 70% of the Harper students already work. So they're working part-time already. We don't work with a lot of students. We mostly work with, the community outside of Harper. But even internally, so when there's student jobs, like for different departments, they do have to break it up and, instead of doing a 6-hour shift, maybe do a couple of 2-hour shifts or 2 3-hour shifts. So that's happening everywhere. It's happening at Harper too.
Time for maybe one more question, if anybody has one. If not, maybe just 2 minutes. Okay, all right. Well, first of all, thank you very much for our panel today. We appreciate all of you donating your time. Appreciate it. Few last acknowledgments and then we can let you go. I especially want to thank the Metropolis Ballroom today, especially Tom Minetti and Jillian Hart for accommodating this program and the hot breakfast. So thank you so much for that. Also, Kevin Corcoran in the back, Laurel Communications, is recording this so that it can be available to those who were not able to attend today or those who were able to attend if you want to go take a look back and see anything that was discussed today. Of course, I want to thank the Arlington Economic Alliance. It was you who initiated and approved this program. Two people I especially want to thank, Tanya Edo and Michelle Petrie. They were out handing out the microphones and signing people in, but really they were the people who helped formulate and drive this program. So if you enjoyed it, it's because of them. If you didn't, you can blame me, and that's okay too. Also, especially to Andrew Stengrin for your ongoing leadership of this commission. Thank you so much for that. Of course, I want to thank Mayor Hayes and the entire Village Board of Arlington Heights for your ongoing support of the Economic Alliance. It's because of that support that you enable that commission to do programs like this and help support the small business community. And then lastly, and most importantly, I want to thank the business community and all those in attendance. It's your ongoing investment in this community that helps make Arlington Heights one of Chicagoland's premier destinations to live, to work, to visit, and that's not hyperbole, that's fact. So I want to say thank you for all you do. Please, if you ever need assistance, reach out to the village, reach out to me as your business development manager. If I can't get you the answer, I'll certainly find somebody who does. And lastly, it's Memorial Day weekend. Your homework is please thank a veteran this weekend. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.